Good morning, everyone. And Abby, thank you for that wonderful introduction. That's why we need public information officers to make people sound and things sound great and better than they really are. And so I do have the privilege in working with our local agencies and planning for the future of transportation and technology. And as our Director, Jen Gillette, has mentioned on several occasions, this really is kind of a new role for transportation planning organizations, and where we can kind of move the needle on some things in short term and get some things done quicker to better utilize our existing systems and make things move more efficiently. And so our TPO has been a long-standing supporter of utilizing technology to improve our transportation systems. I believe all the way back to the early 2000s that we started getting involved in ITS and helping to plan for those projects. And unlike capacity projects, we found out that it's not a set it and forget it process. Once the capacity project has been funded in TPO's past, we kind of pass it on off to DOT and everybody, and it kind of moves through the motions and everything. And so when some of our projects were advancing, I started asking silly questions like, well, who's going to help take care of this stuff later on? And this is 10 years ago or so. And it became apparent that we needed a plan, like we like to do. We like to make lots of plans for the future on how this technology should move forward in the future in meaningful ways. And that makes sense, and that is efficient and safe. And so a lot of our outreach that we do, we love to speak in acronyms and communications, in abbreviations, and Abby does a great job at trying to correct us on all of that. And so to get our public to better understand this world of alphabet soup that we speak, as part of our last ITS master plan, we had a video developed to help the public better understand what it is exactly that we're trying to achieve. Maybe. Leave it to the technology guy to mess something up. There it is.
Space Coast Transportation Planning Organization here with some technorific news about the current state of our area's growing intelligent transportation system and how our tax dollars can transport us into a safer and even more money-saving, tax-saving, and connected future. All of the intelligent transportation technologies we'll see, current, coming, and future, enable our local travelers to be better informed and make safer, more coordinated, and smarter use of transportation networks while saving money, fuel, and time. Most importantly, our intelligent transportation system will save our local tax dollars in the long run. We'll look at the technologies that are currently deployed, the new tech that's already on the way, and some future tech that's truly game-changing if we choose to adopt it. Let's take a little trip to a local intersection and look at the technologies currently deployed there. Here, we see the intersection of Pineda Causeway and Wickham Road. Let's look at our already deployed closed-circuit television, known as CCTV, and vehicle detection sensors working alongside the high-speed network beneath our feet, and then add in the future possibilities. There's more to our intelligent transportation system than meets the eye, as CCTV allows traffic management staff to get a real-time look at traffic flow and watch for accidents. Vehicle detection, with its special sensors, automatically detects the presence of vehicles and obstructions on the roadway and instantly warns the management center. Meanwhile, our already on the way crosswalk detection software will use similar vehicle detection sensors to check for people in the crosswalk and warn oncoming traffic day or night and in all weather conditions. Now, let's add in some other existing possibilities like Bluetooth technology, which can detect the speed of vehicles entering and exiting the roadway. The Traffic Management Center now not only sees the intersection, but has much deeper traffic flow data to use for safety and roadway improvements. Speaking of traffic management centers, our new traffic management center is being envisioned as we speak. We're really excited about it. It's the brains of this entire operation, after all. Let's travel to another location and look at some more future possibilities. This is the intersection of US 192 and Hollywood Boulevard. In addition to the technologies we've already seen, this intersection employs another modern technology called signal coordination. Signal coordination uses the vehicle detection sensors to allow other intersections upstream and downstream to communicate with each other and work together to predict traffic flow and adjust the signals, improving traffic flow and saving travelers even more time and money. With the addition of roadside units, direct communication with vehicles becomes possible, providing instant traffic notifications like red light wait times. And with onboard units installed in vehicles, the possibilities are even greater, as vehicles could then communicate directly with each other and the surrounding infrastructure, increasing travel efficiency, safety, and hopefully less road rage. And of course, high above the hustle and bustle, next-generation drones could not only ferry our online purchases, but provide first responders a bird's-eye view of accidents, or even provide updates to your smartphone about foot traffic at a concert, festival, or rocket launch. Of course, new technology is an investment. Our hardware must be updated, maintained, and secured in order for future components to integrate seamlessly, in the same way that we wouldn't hook up a supercomputer to a dial-up internet connection. In the present and in the future, all of these technologies acting together increase safety, optimize our existing infrastructure, and save taxpayers time and money. Well, what are you waiting for? Get involved and support the future of our intelligent transportation system. Let your local elected officials know that you support enhanced traffic operations. Learn more at spacecoasttpo.com. Thanks for watching.
And so the great video, we've gotten a lot of really good feedback on it. It is on our YouTube channel if you'd like to share it. There's a lot of terms in there that, some of the more technical people in here, they're not 100% spot on, but, the public doesn't care what we call them. So we try to really work with the firm that we work with to really make it easy to understand. And so I mentioned we did our first ITS master plan in 2015. Just because things changed, we decided it was time to do a refresh in 2019. But in between 2015 and our new plan, we did get a lot of work done. We got several big expansion projects completed. We've been a part of a lot of great DOT initiatives that have been district-wide. One of the more challenging parts, though, is trying to increase those local maintaining agency staffing levels. But there's been some progress made on that just in the past year or so, so there's good things to come. And so we've ended up with this pretty extensive network. Brevard's got one of the larger networks in District 5, I believe, and our local agencies do a really good job of trying to take care of all these things in a timely manner. And the more and more stuff that gets added, the more and more people that are needed, and the more resources that are needed to take care of it all. And so as you can see, over 484 connected signals, and I believe we have just under 100 or so that still need to be connected up, or maybe a little over 100. And so if you think about just advancements in technology in your pocket, you can see this slide is already dated. It's only 6 months old. I think we're on the iPhone 14 now, or is it 13? 14 will be out next month, right? So just think of just the changes in that iPhone 6 to what your phone can do now. We have all of these devices roadside and that need to be maintained and updated and upgraded, and new stuff that comes out. And upgrading 500 connected signals is a little bit more time consuming than upgrading your cell phone. And so I won't get too much into the technology in vehicles and where it's came, because I believe Mr. Dillmore is going to talk about that after lunch. But it's pretty amazing to see where things have come on this front as well. And so our new ITS master plan that we was recently adopted back in July of last year, we kind of retooled a little bit, and where the first time we really focused on that cost savings to the community, and ITS was one of the investments that we could make in infrastructure that it paid for itself in fuel savings and time savings. We really focused a lot more on safety this go around because of our newly narrowed focus on Vision Zero and trying to figure out how we can move the needle on that, and Kim had that effort underway in parallel with our plan update. And then we also looked at all of these other goals in resiliency as well, as Sarah's been working on a resiliency master plan. And we need to make sure that this system is resilient in different ways than some of our other systems, like cybersecurity. And so, of course, like any good plan, we came up with a lot of different projects. We came up with over 126 different projects that came up, but this time, instead of just looking at the realm of expansion projects, like fiber projects and stuff like that, we took a look at some other things like intersection safety, evacuation projects, parking management, and bike ped safety projects. And we also did something different this go around too, is where we didn't necessarily prioritize all of the projects, because last time we found, even though we went through and we prioritized them 1 through 36, we found that number 12, number 16, number 8 would move forward because that's what the locals were ready to move forward with. And so we merely identified opportunities, and it's up to the local agencies to move them forward. And so we identified interstate projects. Well, there's some of these going in now, I believe, down on the O'Galley ramp improvement projects. There's some of the wrong way driving notification equipment going in. That's a huge safety benefit. The queue warning systems will be huge when all of those devices roadside can actually speak to the vehicles, or maybe to a box, like we used to have GPSs or cell phones in your car, to let you know ahead of time before a DMS or something where there isn't one, that there's something stopped or blocking the roadway ahead. And then, of course, we do have, some of the traditional stuff thrown in there too, but these are really the foundation for each intersection to become connected. This allows our operators to see and manage each intersection in real time if they have these basic things. They need to be able to see, have connectivity, and then things like the roadside units are kind of those future things that once you have the groundwork and the foundation built of the basics, you can add on to the future. And so some of the signalized intersection safety strategies that were identified was your traditional retiming, because huge benefits in that. The cameras, the dilemma zone detection. I think of this one every time Melissa gives her presentation, that had a technology been deployed like that, it could have drastically changed the outcome of that incident. And then the connected vehicle technology at the intersections could provide information to the driver on what the signal is actually doing. A lot of people get the calls from their constituents that I sat through this signal cycle for 3 cycles, or the light was only red for 2 seconds. Well, if they could actually see what the light was doing or is going to do on their dashboard, which several auto manufacturers are incorporating this technology, it might give them better information and be able to make better decisions, and also maybe inform them that if they go 5 miles under the speed limit, they might get every green light, and that's not how people drive now. And then so, in addition to all the cool flashy stuff, we also looked at some areas where there were some high crashes on the Vision Zero high injury network that were unsignalized intersections. And so these are kind of some of the lower tech deployment solutions that could be done, either where there's curves or just high incidence of crashes, just with some warning signs and some basic vehicle detection to allow parallel traffic or perpendicular traffic to know that there's something going on, or that there's someone stopped at a side street. And again, we identified some examples where it makes sense to us, but we're encouraging all of our local maintaining agencies to think about these things when they're working on their projects on their own, in their own area. Just because it's not in our plan doesn't mean you can't do this in your area at any given location where it makes sense. And then event management and evacuation. District 5 has done a phenomenal job at stepping up and helping out with this. We have a huge influx of visitors with the increase in our space program launches. I believe there's one this afternoon, and they're happening more often. And so they've done a great job at helping mitigate and get information out to the public. And so we identified some projects that'll assist in areas where we don't have any communication or cameras right now. And not to mention hurricane evacuations when those are needed. And then another one, parking management. If you step back and look at this one, that's not really safety related. Well, if you've driven around on a holiday weekend looking for a parking space at the beach with a car full of kids, and it could become a safety issue. So this is something that will be exciting to work forward. with our locals to see areas where this might make some sense and get more information to the public so people can make better decisions. And then we've covered some transit projects too. Space Coast Area Transit has done a great job at getting some ITS technologies deployed on their buses. We're looking to enhance some of that with maybe get to transit signal priority one day when it makes sense, and having maybe some mobility transit kiosks for those that maybe don't have the app or a cell phone or something like that, so they can get the same information provided in the app, but right at the transit stops. And then getting into bicycle safety, we again identified a few areas where there had been high incidents of bicycle crashes based on the high injury network, and identified some areas where some things to, again, better communicate to the drivers that there's bicyclists in the area, and some adaptive lighting systems, and high emphasis lane markings. Again, not always a high-tech solution, but we wanted to make sure we included it. And then some similar solutions are applicable to both the cyclists and the pedestrians. We saw a lot of them in Lori's presentation before me. But again, things like signal retiming, passive pedestrian detection could be great because a pedestrian just walks up and then the signal knows that there's actually a pedestrian there. This way, because not every pedestrian hits the button, or they mash it 10 times and it doesn't make any difference. And so this way, and it also prevents that issue too of the button sticking and then causing other signal issues as well. And then the adaptive lighting, I think, and lit crosswalks are a really big one on this. I'm excited to see where it goes. And then again, the connected vehicle technologies, getting the information back to the driver so that they know pedestrians are in the area. A lot of vehicles have this, or starting to get them in them now, standard, just they can somehow sense that there's a person there. And then the merging of these two systems, or two different ideologies of cyclists and pedestrians, and some of the solutions, they can be combined again to detect the vulnerable roadway users and to let motorists know that they're entering the roadway. And the really cool thing about all of this, to at least, when you're an agency that helps with the planning and the funding of transportation projects, is that the benefit to cost ratio is huge on these projects. 7 to 1, what is it? DOT look at 2 to 1 if it's beneficial to move forward on traditional projects, something like that. Thanks, Tony. And so, and on top of the time and fuel savings, there is really a lot of safety benefits to all of this, as long as it's all working correctly. And so there's a lot that goes into every intersection that a lot of people don't necessarily understand. But again, these get into quick implementation compared to traditional projects. Those projects that we've got done in between our master plans, 4 or 5 years is light speed in our world to see projects implemented. So the big wins and really kind of the low-hanging fruit, if you will, for transportation improvements. And as I mentioned, it does get us geared up for the future of transportation. As you hear more about connected vehicles and autonomous vehicles, by maintaining and taking care of what we have already today at a higher level will get us prepared for what comes in the future. Like the video mentioned, the supercomputer to the dial-up connection just doesn't make any sense. And so some of the success factors moving forward, sometimes policies, like especially when it comes to local agencies and their view on maintenance and operations, it really has to be elevated. The labor pool of transportation engineers and traffic engineers and signal technicians is very competitive right now, and there's just not a whole lot for people to pick from, and so the salaries need to be more competitive, and some things needed to be done to move the needle on that. And that's more in the staffing area. But with the policies, local agencies, even in the cities, if you're not a maintaining agency of your cities, you can, inquire about, how your signals are working and stuff like that, or make the developers put in all of the things that are required and that are all the equipment that is compatible with our existing system. So it takes the burden off of the maintaining agencies after the signal is installed. And then, of course, increasing operation and maintenance funding is always great. Again, to help attract the good talent and retain them. Updating signal maintenance agreements with the cities, and having the local operations committee, which is something we've got going. District 5 puts on a regional transportation systems management and operations group. Jeremy leads that group. It's a lot of great discussion. And then so our local group that's just formed in the past year, we sit down and we look at what those regional initiatives mean here in Brevard. And so that's been very good so far. And so all of that has to talk back to somewhere. So currently, everything has been talking back to the traffic management cubicle in Brevard County. That's what the C stood for. And so now with partnership with Brevard County and with DOT and the TPO helping out here and there, we're moving forward, about halfway done with the design of our new Transportation Management Center, but we're still calling it Traffic Management Center for planning consistency. But one day it might be called a Transportation Management Center. And so this is the latest rendering we've gotten. And so we're really excited about that. Our TPO plans on being in this facility as well to help with the future of traffic operations and to try to elevate maintenance and operations and to analyze the data as well. There's a lot of data that this system generates, and as long as everything's up and running well, we can use it to make some good transportation decisions moving forward. And so all of this, as I mentioned before, it's really the groundwork for transportation. We do a lot of great things here on the Space Coast, and some crazy things going up in orbit, and there's this stuff to do all this. The talent it takes is crazy complex and very well orchestrated. We're going to other planets, we're landing rockets every month or so. Rockets are going up once a week or so. We should be able to do traffic operations really good.
Work from home.
And so with that being said, just really more support for maintenance and operations is what I'd like everyone to take away for this. We've made huge strides in it, but it's a piece of that pie that Laureen has identified, as part of the Safe System. We really need to make sure we have that down pat, and I believe as long as we continue on the path we're on, working closely with the district and our local agencies, we'll continue to make great strides. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
You said something about the maintaining authorities and working with them.
Mm-hmm. Well, that was a suggestion as a follow-up, and I don't know that it's necessarily been done yet. And I just realized I forgot to show off some of the little toys I brought. I was trying to keep things interesting, but I didn't see anyone nodding off at me. I got the permission from Kim to fly the drone at anybody nodding off.
No, I was afraid he was going to take it off from right under my nose here where I was sitting.
But this is a signal controller. For those that don't know, there's one of these in every traffic signal controller box. They all have to be programmed to each location based on the traffic conditions in that area. And everyone that goes through that intersection, their life depends on everything to be done in this box correctly. The first time. There can be no errors. And then inside the box with this, there's probably about, 60 other devices and hundreds of wires inside those signal cabinets. So signal technicians have a very important job, and so do the engineers that work with them. And so it's another takeaway that the systems are very complex, and we need more people and to take good care of the people that are working on these things. And this is an example of one of the cameras that does detection, as well as pedestrian and cyclist counts, moving through the intersection, classification counts. You can do all that with one camera. So it's pretty impressive, but again, it needs maintenance. Wasps like to build nests. They have to be cleaned. birds poop on them, salt spray, all sorts of good stuff. So again, I'd be happy to talk about this stuff all day, but like I said, I only had 30 minutes. So, and you guys probably want to eat lunch.
I have a quick question. Steve, you mentioned the pedestrian seeking the car that can find the pedestrian at the intersection. How does that happen? And I would love to see the technology as well. You get the fun job of seeing that evolve. But is there a danger of getting too techy? Also, I mean that's also a challenge maintaining these systems. And then we all have that personal responsibility not to look down at the phone and this and that. But we know that everybody in this room has probably done it, but at some point, there's everything has to sort of balance out. I just wonder, with pedestrians sort of being that focus and trying to, your car, understanding where they are. That really caught my eye. How is that technology interfacing with cars?
So which part, with the intersection or the?
Yeah.
So the detection in the intersection right now, I believe, would be done typically with cameras, and because that's kind of the cheapest cost right now. But I believe the better solution, once it becomes more affordable, would be LiDAR, because it's more precise. It's not subject to some of the things that cameras are, and things of that nature. But it might be a mixture of the two systems working together for redundancy, depending on weather conditions and stuff like that.
Steve, we've heard a lot about cybersecurity lately. We've heard what Russia may or may not be up to, China. Could you talk a little bit about perhaps a bad actor that may want to do us harm and what type of security we may need in the future?
Great question. And so I learned as I got into asking more questions about cybersecurity that the best practice in cybersecurity is to not talk about what your cybersecurity practices are. And so that's a good step, but I have been assured that there are multiple systems within the DOT and lots of protocols that are put in place to prevent, number one, any of that happening, and then measures that will be taken if something was to happen. So just like we have our continuing operations plan or COOP or whatever, if there's something we have to continue to function, DOT has whole procedures that they'll follow and can coordinate with the locals if something bad was to happen. And I actually got emails the other day that I forwarded on that the Homeland Security threat level is elevated currently, so just keeping a watchful eye. And probably their biggest vulnerability is people going into cabinets, right? And so our local agencies keeping an eye on that is a big one. And then just always staying in the loop on what the best practices are and continuing to update, upgrade, and monitor.